I'm drinking a malt liquor this week. Welcome to Beer in Front. I'm your host, Dave Zalatoris. Every week I'll talk about a beer that maybe we've forgotten along the way while we get those check-ins and badges. Being the Chicago beer guy, I'll also talk about great craft beer in the city of Chicago. That's Beer in Front, and it's coming up now. Welcome to episode 116 of Beer in Front. I thank you so much for listening. Speaking of listening, I had people that listened last week from new countries, so welcome Malaysia and Estonia. Welcome. Also, there was another listener I had from Ukraine. I hope you're safe. I hope your family is safe. If you ever want to come on and talk about beer, please get a hold of me. I'm still battling COVID. I'm almost done with it. I'm going to put this episode out on the 30th of June on Thursday. On Friday the 30th, my 10-day quarantine will be over and I should be good to go come Saturday. I took the full 10 days because after the 5, I still was symptomatic. My throat still is a little off. I'm sure you notice it listening. Throat was bad, little headaches, sniffling, nowhere near as bad as when I had it in the winter, so that's good. The doctor gave me Paxlovid. That helped a lot. So if you wind up getting it and the doctor offers it, I mean, I can only compare it, with how it was a couple months ago, but that made a big difference. So hopefully on Saturday, I'll be good to go with COVID. On this week's show, I sat down with my friend Jason over at Designated Quizzers Podcast. We're going to talk about the podcast that he co-hosts and also some Buffalo area beer. So that'll be coming up later in the show. Speaking of Buffalo, I don't know. I think I should be an honorary citizen of Buffalo. Last year, I had the women on from Bill's Brews Babes. I've also had on Danny a couple times from Weekly Beer Show. Now I have Jason on. I'm not saying that someone needs to send me over a pair of Zubas, but I think a Sabres hat at the minimum needs to come my way because I will rock the Buffalo Sabres hat. So yes, I feel I should be an honorary Buffalonian. I don't know what the proper term is, but yes, I'm a Buffaloite now. Mayor Byron Brown. My email address is dave@beerinfront.com. I mentioned in the intro, I'm having a malt liquor. I think this is the first time on the show. A coworker of mine, Angela, is a big fan of Mickey's malt liquor. She brought one to me, so I don't want to spoil the segment, but later in the show, I'm going to have a Mickey's Big Mouth as the beer in front. I want to thank my newest Patreon member, the Soundtrack Your Life podcast. Thank you for signing up. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/beerinfront. I'd also like to give a big shout out this week to shoutparty.com. You can use Shout Party to monetize your podcast with paid shout outs at shoutparty.com. And I'm going to change some of the sequencing that happens with the podcast. I've noticed when I'm looking at my numbers that I kind of get some drop off towards like maybe the 3/4 way of the episode. So I'm mixing things up a bit. So stay tuned till the end. I'm going to have the interview with Jason towards the end. So that'll give people a reason to stick around for the full episode. I also have some other news that I'll talk about at the end. So let's kick off episode 116 of Beer in Front. In beer news this week, Friday, July 1st, Half Acre and Vienna Beef are coming out with their Only Gold Festival. It's Friday, July 1st between 3 and 9 over at Half Acre on Balmoral. They'll have their Only Gold Golden Ale with hot dogs from Vienna Beef, so check that out. The Colorado Avalanche just won the Stanley Cup, and I mentioned this a couple years ago, so it's something with Coors Light and the National Hockey League. But they are brewing a beer made with ice from the arena in Denver. And like I mentioned a couple years ago, I've been on hockey rinks. There's blood, there's spit. I don't want anything brewed that contains blood and spit. So maybe if you see the can and you want to keep it as a memento, I'm just saying I'm not drinking it. I read over on Brewbound that I had this a couple weeks ago when I had my malt alternative episode. Boston Beer put out a product called Bevy Long Drink, and it's supposed to be based on the Finnish long drink. If I remember right, it kind of tasted like a gin and tonic, a citrusy thing. No one bought it, so Boston Beer is going to cancel that. So I'm sure you could find it real cheap now, but Boston Beer will no longer be making Bevy Long Drink. Off Color, their Beer 4 series is outstanding. Their newest one that's coming out in the next couple of weeks looks to be incredible. This is Beer for Tapas. This is a sangria flavored beer that has grape juice from Pinot Noir grapes, apple juice, orange juice, lemon juice. Beer for Tapas looks outstanding. I can't wait to get my hands on this one. Some really good news. You remember back in March, I was talking about Twisted Hippo. That's a brewery that was really close to me. They burnt down. It was a devastating fire, took the brewery down, and also business that was right next door to them. They finally put something out on Instagram today saying that news is long overdue, but they're continuing to search for a space in the Albany Park neighborhood, and that Albany Park is in their heart. So that's good news. And also by the end of the summer, they're going to release some beer in collaboration with another brewer in the Chicago area. And there's some details to be worked out, but that news will be coming soon. So that's terrific news. Also, they mentioned that through fundraising efforts like GoFundMe, things like that, they were able to pay their staff for 2 whole months after the devastating fire. So that's really good news from Twisted Hippo. And finally, the big news, which you probably have heard because it came out right as I released my episode last week. But Stone Brewing Company, they're being sold to Sapporo, the Japanese brewery, for roughly $165 million. Stone is going to keep their distribution network and own them, but Stone is being sold out, so your Stone IPA, your Arrogant Bastard, your Enjoy By, all of that will now be owned by Sapporo. Oh, I had some good beers, even with COVID during the week. I want to thank Grandpa Beer. He sent over, and I had from Bad Beat Brewing, a Goza called You're Looking Sharp. That was great. And I also want to thank Grandma Beer Sharon. She sent over a nice care package. I received that in the mail today. So Sharon, thank you very much. After the cider cruise, I mentioned I was going to pick up some of the ciders. I grabbed one from Woodchuck. This was a barrel-aged cider, and Woodchuck's one of the original cider makers that was mass-produced in the country. I remember seeing Woodchuck cider back in like 97 when craft beer was starting to come around, so Woodchuck's definitely an OG. I wasn't that big of a fan of the barrel age. There was too much going on with everything. I appreciate the effort, but for me, I've had better. I need to thank the great Wish You Were Beer Show. I had their alter ego. That was from Smart Mouth. That was really good. Speaking of the Wish You Were Beer Show, next Thursday, which will be July 7th, you need to check out their live feed. They put one out on YouTube. You could follow them on Twitter, but they did something incredible, and I'm so happy for them. They're great people. but they put out a new beer with the Virginia Beer Company called Dortmunder. I hardly know her. They're going to have a live feed. I'm going to tune in. I'm going to join in next Thursday. So, but Wish You Were Beer, great show. They always send over some great stuff, and I'm looking forward to trying their Dortmunder next week. And finally, I had for my friend Floyd in Pennsylvania, I had a beer called Sunglasses After Dark. This was from a place called Love Draft. Floyd, thank you for that. That was another winner. The next beer I want to talk about is Mickey's Fine Malt Liquor. Mickey's came out originally in 1962, and I did not know this, but this was originally made in Evansville, Indiana by an outfit called Sterling Brothers. I have kin from Evansville, Indiana, so this is famous for its bottle shape. It's a green, I guess they call it like a barrel or hand grenade. It's a definite unique bottle. They also come in a variety of different can sizes, bottle sizes. They were acquired by Miller in 1999, and this is also, people poo-poo it because it's a malt liquor, but this has won 4 different Great American Beer Festival medals and also 2 World Beer Cup medals. It clocks in at 5.6% alcohol, and you can, like I said, you can get it in cans, bottles, you can get it in a 40 ounce. So let's twist this one open and try it. That's a unique sound on Beer in Front. I don't know if, I had Mickey's shit when I was probably before drinking age. And, it's definitely got the big mouth. It pours really quick. It has the color's very nice. It's a nice gold color. I don't know about this aroma. I'm going to try it. Yeah. I don't know. I try not to say anything bad about something at beers on the show because I know a lot of people put hard work into them, but it has a strange taste. It doesn't taste like beer to me. There's something going on here with like a sweetness that I don't think is natural. I don't know. I have a feeling a couple of these will make you regret life. Yeah, I can't say I'm a fan. So if you are a fan, God bless you. I'm not here to, piss in anyone's cornflakes, anything like that. This is not for me. Maybe it's for you. If you're a fan of malt liquors, this one might be for you. But I'm going to take one more sip in case I miss something here. Yeah, I can't put my finger on that taste, but I can't say I'm a fan. So, all right, there's the Beer in Front review of Mickey's Fine Malt Liquor. I need to thank my coworker, Angela, for smuggling this in for me because she said that she had some of these in her fridge, so she'd bring one. So, Angela, thank you for this. I appreciate it. All right, welcome back to the show. I'm happy to have on Jason Marks. He is one of the co-hosts, along with his wife Lisa, of the Designated Quizzers podcast. This podcast is currently #1 on the games chart on Good Pods. Comes out weekly. Jason, thanks so much for coming on. How are you doing this evening?
I am doing great, Dave, and thank you so much for having me. And thanks for sending some sunshine my way from over there in Chicago.
Before we get started, I've had people on from Buffalo before. What's the deal with the folding tables at the Bills games?
You know what? I've never gone through a table, which is it's on my bucket list of things to do, A, because of the Bills games, and B, because I've always been a big wrestling fan. So it's a combination of I must go through a table at some point in my life. Probably not a good idea at 46. Yeah. But my stepson, probably pushing 300 pounds and now 18 years old or 19 in college, told Lisa earlier this year, because he had gone to a game, my ribs hurt. And she's like, why? And of course, he hemmed and hawed. And then, of course, out came the truth that, oh, we thought it was a good idea to jump off the whatever. And he went through a table. So the answer to your question is, I don't know, but they don't fold. They just stop you and or break.
I think you should, or people there should like have stock in Home Depot or one of those companies, or an office like a Staples or a thing like that. I think be making some money off of that.
And the only other thing I can say back to that is, one of the things I wrote down here, because I knew you'd ask me about, probably football or something along those lines, is that, back in the late 80s and early 90s, we had the best team to never win a Super Bowl when we went to 4 straight Super Bowls. But again, keep in mind that other than our lacrosse team, we don't win here in Buffalo. We get close and then we just don't win. So we have to do something else to occupy our time. And besides beer, there's tables.
Yes.
And pizza.
Actually, during that Bills run, Marv Levy still lived here in Chicago in the off season. And I remember a couple times I'm driving through this little suburb, which was like adjacent to where I lived. And there's like in the middle of June, here's Marv Levy just taking a walk. I'm like, wait, that's Marv Levy. There he was, just minding his own business.
I didn't know that he actually lived out in Chicago, which is something that I probably should know from being here in Buffalo. But Marv Levy certainly is a household name in Buffalo. That's for sure.
Can you tell people about the Designated Quizzers podcast?
I can. So the latest way that I've come up with to answer that question is, remember the last time you had a little too much to drink? Well, you tried to ask someone a question, but what you came out was nothing like what you meant to ask. That's Designated Quizzers podcast. So there's an adventure in the question. The challenge is to guess the answers. But that said, the quiz is merely for fun. Although we do learn some things along the way, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to avoid the punishment shot, which is a messed up concoction of multiple ingredients and an alcohol that don't necessarily go together. So, for example, on the June 9th episode, which was number 29, one of us, I'm not going to say who, got stuck drinking a blended drink of tuna fish, guacamole, the cheap cherry vodka, and grapefruit juice. That was my concoction, and it was accurate to its name. We called it the I Feel Sick, because it was about amusement park rides. So that's the show. Ugh. We ask a question, and then we twist it around, and it's mainly comedy, but people also play along.
This is an audio show. I should have recorded the video so you could have seen the look on my face when you were describing the tuna fish in the shot. Are there buckets nearby just in case?
I really don't want to spoil the fact that I don't know how that shot turned out, so it might not have been me that got stuck with it. But I know we were careful to blend it because, you really can't drink whole tuna fish. But I can tell you that the response was, well, just have to listen to the show. But apparently it tasted like you might think.
Now, the show comes out weekly, correct?
It does. Every Thursday since day one, which day one was back in November. So, we're 6-ish months in, and every Thursday I usually drop it out early, about an hour early, but it's advertised as 8 a.m. So Eastern time.
What made you decide to do it? I know you kind of mentioned it before, but have you always been interested in doing a podcast? Have you done other things in audio? You have a great voice. I would think that somewhere along the lines there might have been a DJ job that you had.
That's a really nice compliment. So, however, the podcasting thing actually is Lisa's. Lisa gets credit for that. Maybe a year-ish or two ago, she, really got into listening to podcasts, and it wasn't even necessarily my thing. And then finally, I think I just listened and said, yeah, all right, let's give it a try. We just sort of put it together. I mean, we actually started out with a concept that was completely different from what we do. I just threw in a quiz that's actually what has turned into Designated Quizzers, and threw her completely for a loop because she didn't see it coming. And then we went, well, that was garbage, but what about this? And no, I mean, other than being in the public eye and just working my regular, it's not 9 to 5, it's longer than that job, for the last 28 years, I just have been in front of the public a lot, but I have no formal any training and anything. So the fact that you said that was really, really nice and complimentary. And thank you.
No problem. What are you drinking right now? I see you sipping on something. You could finish your sip before you answer, but you drinking something, a local beer from Buffalo?
I'm drinking a local beer from the Western New York area. So, like Illinois, New York is a very large state. And so it's kind of divided into sections. So Western New York is kind of what we in this area are refer to our area. So this one's about 2 hours south from me, but it's Southern Tier 2X IPA, which I know that this is audio, but I'm putting it up in front for you. And I know you've probably seen it and maybe even have had it. So it's probably our local, our most successful local brewery, because they've expanded quite a bit out from this basically what really is a small town in southern New York that they started in. So 8.2% on the ABV. It's described as feverishly hoppy, bright with big aromatics of grapefruit and lemon, followed by a dank hop bite, and that is accurate. And it's a delicious beer for now. What is a semi-mass produced beer?
Yeah, they distribute here. I've had some of their stuff. I think I've had that one a couple of years ago. I mean, everything that I've had from them, I like. I know we were emailing back and forth, going up into this, and some of the other places you mentioned don't distribute here. So that's probably the only one from that area that I've come across. I'm sure maybe there's others and I just haven't seen them, but I know I had recently from them, they had an imperial stout it was like an almond joy. It was a chocolate coconut almond that was like it was like drinking an almond joy with a lot of booze, and that was pretty good.
If you're and honestly, Lisa's the stout person, and over this past winter, I don't know if it's an unwritten rule. Maybe you can chime in on this, Dave, but winter is for porters for me and stouts, and now that it's warmer, I can't feel the same about them. I don't know if that's just me, or maybe I'm turning into a beer snob. I don't mean to be, but what are your thoughts on that actually?
I generally feel the same way, although there are times where I'll still have one if it's nice out and maybe I'm going to have a cigar. There's times I appreciate a stronger, darker beer, but I'm kind of the same way as you. And it's warmer outside. I want to have something maybe a little lower in alcohol, a little lighter, that you could have a few of them and not get hammered. If you're going to sit outside, if it's nice out barbecuing or having a picnic. For me, I don't want something that heavy, high imperial stout that you're just going to be one and done with.
Yeah. Plus, the thickness of it on a warmer day is a little more to me unappealing. But I had some really great ones over the winter. The other two that I have before we move forward or wherever we're going is the Big Ditch, which I mentioned in my email to you, which is kind of a Buffalo staple. It's 7.5% ABV, and I would guess that if I had to pick one that might make its way out of Buffalo, this is probably it. And that's 7.2, but that one's the one that you can kind of find in your local events. Like, it's the one that they have, if that makes any sense. And then the other one I picked up is from a brewery literally about 5 to 7 minutes from here. It's a little quaint town called Lewiston that's just north of us here. And it's a Nelson's Victory Hazy Triple IPA at 10.9. And they don't even have it listed on their website yet. So I went, I've not seen this one. Lisa says, "What do you have in there?" And so she says, she generally likes the higher ABVs. So I'm like, well, try this. I tried a sip, and honestly, I'm not a fan yet. Maybe I will be, but it had it was a little sweeter and more. It was pineapple-y, and it was a little too. Yeah. So she may have all four of those. But
what style is your normal go-to? Like, if you were picking up one, or you were at a bar that had a huge choice, what's your normal go-to style that you would pick?
So for me, it's definitely IPAs. I like the hoppiness. If I'm drinking spirits, I'm a bourbon guy. I also enjoy a good cigar. I have some right in the drawer next to me over here. So, the stronger flavors for me and IPAs are something that not everybody can drink. I'm sure you agree with that. What about you? Actually, I'm curious to know, where you stand on that spectrum.
I was a big, and I still am, and I'm having one now, actually, an IPA person. But doing this show for the last couple of years, I've branched out, and I was probably the beer snob, the beer bro that just liked his IPAs. But doing this, while I appreciated and loved porters, stouts, saisons, everything else, I'm even now appreciating more of the old school macro beers that I would just shun them. But now doing this, I enjoy a Schlitz. I enjoy an old school beer that, is it the best beer in the world? Absolutely not. But it's a good beer. So I have those I picked up. I bought a 30 pack of Miller High Life the other day. Just they were on sale. I had a 30 pack for $10. I'm like, that's a good beer for $10 for a 30 pack.
The champagne of beers.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I would still go with an IPA. I do like Vienna lagers, which are very tasty. Sam Adams, their regular Boston lagers, considered a Vienna. So something along that style, that would be probably my second favorite. Like if I see a good Vienna lager somewhere, I'm probably going to grab that.
Yeah, no, and I can definitely appreciate that. This is one of the things that I was excited about, coming on the show with you because, we had a different podcast that's from the other side of the pond on our show, so it was more tailored to us. But I missed the opportunity to be on theirs, and they're very big into, they always talk about what they're drinking, and and it's kind of that pubby type feel, and it's always something that I wanted to be able to just, come on and just discuss openly. So I appreciate you having me. And it's cool to talk about that because it's one of those things where it's sort of, even though there's different opinions, people get so passionate and into the discussion because it truly is. I mean, yes, you talked about the macro breweries, but even that, it's still it's a craft. It's a skill.
Yeah.
It's an art. Just like podcasting.
Yes. Although I don't know if you consider this one an art, but
no, it definitely is.
Are there styles that are bigger by you? Like here, still the majority of places, I think your hazy IPA is probably what pays the rent for a lot of breweries around here. What's it like by you?
I think that is probably similar here. If it's not an IPA, then I think it's probably some sort of maybe a Vienna style lager or some sort of a lager. I mean, don't forget, I am minutes away from the Canadian border, so one of our local attractions or cool places to go here I'm in Niagara Falls, but 20 miles south of me is Buffalo. So it's considered the Buffalo Niagara region. But, in the city of Buffalo, they've really done a lot for the waterfront and have been kind of building it back up. So one of the places down there is called Riverworks, and it is one of the rivers. And there's a big, giant, you can see it from a couple miles away, Labatt's Blue, wrapping around there. So that's how close. How I'm in the States and they're, big into the Labatt Blue, so I think, you see a lot of different things around here, but we've had a lot of craft breweries pop up over the past few years. In fact, there's another one that's supposed to be coming our way in Niagara Falls, and we don't actually have one here in Niagara Falls. So I'm excited to see what they bring.
Have you heard anything? Like, are they going to be focusing on any specific style, or are you just don't know much right now about them?
I only read that article a couple months ago, so I'm holding out to see if it actually comes true. Unfortunately, it's you hope a lot here in Niagara Falls, but
yeah,
20 minutes east of us here, we found it is in the middle of nowhere, and we found a nice little brewery. It's called Live Edge. They have live music. Actually, one of my friends is a local musician and played there. and they had a couple, really, really decent original beers, but they had a nice variety. And so there's little, I was going to call microbreweries popping up here and there in places as well. So, we're a blue collar town, and so beer is a thing. And there's a variety. To answer your original question, it's a variety. Everybody likes their own little thing.
Like, I would think, being a tourist town that gets a lot of tourists, there would be a lot more breweries that are there. If somebody was coming out to Niagara Falls, what are places that maybe not like brewery there they could go to, but if they were going to a bar or a restaurant, what are some local breweries that you would recommend people try out?
From the Niagara Falls area, like I said, there really isn't anything. But if you just journey about 10 minutes or 20 minutes, north or south, you're going to run into the Brickyard Brewing Company up in Lewiston, which is that 10.9 that I mentioned earlier. It's a nice little quaint town. They have a couple IPAs that I've had there. There's a lager that's kind of on my list to try. So that's a nice little place. And again, this is Buffalo. So when you come here and you are looking for a beer, you also get fantastic local food. We definitely have the food thing going on. So, food and beer go together. But one of my favorites down in Buffalo is the Resurgence Brewing Company.
Okay.
They have a Sitmo IPA that I generally gravitate towards. It's a little lighter. It's a nice summery beer, so that kind of fits. They have a nice little patio there. Again, they have the Big Ditch, and we have Thin Man. And of course, the original, the most original. I looked this up the other day. So back in 1976 was the last time that we had a local brewery, and then it kind of went away during the 70s, 80s, 90s, and then when the brewery thing became a big thing, 2000 we opened the Flying Bison. So that is our oldest one. And they have the other staple of Buffalo, besides the Hayburner. They have the Rusty Chain, which is a lager. Nice, solid, good, tasty. Any time of day, any time of year, you can drink that beer and go, "Yep, I had a good beer." So Rusty Chain from Flying Bison also.
Would you consider that to be the quintessential Buffalo beer? If you had to pick one beer that says Buffalo, would that be it?
Yeah, I would say that is. Yep, I would say the Rusty Chain is definitely the Buffalo beer. It kind of, it really does fit. It kind of sneaks its way in there, but yes.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate you coming on, Jason. Why don't you tell everyone where they could find the podcast? It's called Designated Quizzers. I'm assuming it's everywhere, all your major players, your Good Pods, your Apples, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep. We are, in fact, on all platforms, unless there's a new one that came out that I'm not aware of. We do take video of each show, and I have yet to get them all put together, but we do have a YouTube channel. So, I would say YouTube coming soon. We're on all the major socials. My wife, Lisa, the co-host, is very active on Twitter. So if you want to communicate with us, go to Twitter. I'm probably not going to be the one that responds to you, but Lisa definitely will. We're on Facebook. We're on TikTok. Instagram is an interesting place because we started doing some live little shows. We're kind of maybe even going to schedule some 30-minute little live sessions, which are kind of fun. They're really fun to interact with the audience that comes on because you just don't know who's going to be there. So, and then, of course, you can always visit our website, which I am very actively involved with and continuing to develop, which is designated.quizzerspodcast.com. And you can find out about us, our dogs, and our cocktails and our upcoming events. So
you have the tuna fish recipe up there for everyone, or?
So, that's actually next on my list I'm going to put all of our shots and cocktails up there. Yep.
Well, Jason, thanks again for coming on. I appreciate it. I appreciate you talking about your podcast. It's called Designated Quizzers. I appreciate you talking about Buffalo. I will have to try to hit some of those spots if I ever get up there to catch a Bison's game in the summer or a Sabres game in the winter, because I'm not going through a table. My fat ass is not going through a table. So maybe I'll just do a Sabres game in the winter.
Well, you come out, you let me know when you're coming, and we'll keep you safe.
All right. Jason, thanks again. Say hello to Lisa for me. Their show is Designated Quizzers. Check them out. It comes out every week. It's a great show, one of my favorite shows. Jason, we'll see you down the road, sir. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Dave.
All right, that's going to wrap things up for this week's episode of Beer in Front. I want to thank Jason from Designated Quizzers for coming on. That was a good time. Please check out Designated Quizzers podcast. Also, my shout out, check out shoutparty.com. If you're a podcaster and you're looking for new ways to monetize your show, check out shoutparty.com. I have some good shows coming up. This show is good. I have some good shows coming up as well. I'm finalizing details. I'm going to have someone on from the great Beer Nuts Company, and we're going to talk beer nuts. I also have a local sausage company that I think in the month of August we're going to get together and talk about some great local Chicago sausages. Look for that coming up. So a lot of good things happening on Beer in Front. If you're a Chicago area listener, only Chicago, I won a tailgate grill last year. I don't need it. It's branded by Bell's Brewery. I won it. It's a nice size. It's a gas grill. It takes those little propane tanks like you could get at Farm and Fleet, Target, places like that. It's a good size grill. I've never used it, and I don't have the space for it. I will give it away. I don't want anything for it, but if you're local in the Chicago area, send me an email, dave@beerinfront.com. I'll give it to you. We'll meet somewhere. I'm just not packing this thing up and shipping it because it's just too damn big to do that. So if you're local and you need a tailgate grill, hit me up and I'll take care of you. All right, that's Beer in Front. Thank you for listening, and I will talk to everyone next week. While Americans overwhelmingly support the right of an individual to make their own decisions about abortion, unfortunately, that right is no longer protected everywhere in the United States. The Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade on June 24th. Abortion is a basic healthcare need for the millions of people who can become pregnant. Everyone should have the freedom to decide what's best for themselves and their families, including when it comes to ending a pregnancy. This decision has dire consequences for individual health and safety and could have harsh repercussions for other landmark decisions. Restricting access to comprehensive reproductive care, including abortion, threatens the health and independence of all Americans. Even if you live in a state where abortion rights are upheld, access to safe medical procedures shouldn't be determined by location, and it shouldn't be the privilege of a small few. You can help by donating to local abortion funds. To find out where to donate for each state, visit donationsforabortion.com. That's the number 4. If you or someone you know needs help, or if you want to get more involved, I'll include links in the show notes. Thank you.